The diamond spirit shattering essence, a rare and unique heavenly treasure, is formed from the diamond spirit shattering stone. It appears soft as water, but is indestructible. It can be shaped to any size and possesses unique penetrating power when it comes to spiritual energy, with immense destructive force. Most peerless sacred artifacts are crafted using a bit of diamond spirit shattering essence, which shows just how rare this material is. Are you interested in this? Could it be that you're planning to forge a peerless sacred artifact? Master Lu, noticing Mu Chen's gaze, couldn't help but speak in surprise. Mu Chen smiled and shook his head. He wasn't planning to forge a peerless sacred artifact, but the diamond spirit shattering essence had a peculiar effect on him. His immortal golden body could refine immortal divine runes, constantly changing and unpredictable. If he could cover the immortal divine runes with a layer of diamond spirit shattering essence while activating them, the power would undoubtedly increase, perhaps even rivaling a true peerless sacred artifact. This was undoubtedly a treasure that suited him perfectly. Mu Chen glanced at the exchange price, 3,000 demon-slaying points. After a brief hesitation, he waved his hand in exchange for it. The diamond spirit shattering essence fell into his hands, and when combined with the immortal divine runes, it could unleash power comparable to that of a true peerless sacred artifact. Furthermore, due to the variability of the immortal divine runes, it could serve both offensive and defensive purposes, essentially becoming a versatile peerless sacred artifact. After exchanging for the diamond spirit shattering essence, Mu Chen's 10,000 demon-slaying points were reduced to just 2,000. He used the remaining points to exchange for some mid-tier sacred artifacts and spiritual pills that could enhance the strength of 9th grade Supremes and Lower Earth Supremes. Though he couldn't use them personally, they would be invaluable to Mu Manor. Once he had spent all his demon-slaying points, Mu Chen, feeling somewhat unsatisfied, clapped his hands. Under Master Lu's guidance, he left the treasury. Are you planning to go to the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan? When Mu Chen met Luo Li again, he was surprised to hear that she planned to follow the Red Flame Old Immortal to the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan. Luo Li smiled faintly, nodding slightly. Her jade-like face glowed with a soft radiance, captivating Mu Chen's gaze. The Luo God clan is now on track, and the Blood God clan has been severely weakened. They pose no threat. As long as the Luo God clan focuses on recovery, there won't be any problems, Luo Li said gently. Mu Chen frowned. Previously, Luo Li had shown little interest in going to the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan. Why had her attitude changed so quickly? Mu Chen's eyes flickered as he looked at Luo Li. You're going because of me, aren't you? Luo Li froze for a moment. Seeing the expression on Mu Chen's face, she realized she couldn't hide it. She lightly bit her red lip and said, I'm still too weak to help you. Earlier, when the Futu Ancient Clan had pressured Mu Chen, although Luo Li had been angry, she had been powerless to do anything. Facing the Heavenly Supreme, even with the Luo Shun Divine Body, she couldn't make a difference. Moreover, during their journey to the ancient sacred abyss, she had realized her own lack of strength. Not only had she been unable to help Mu Chen, but she had also had to worry about him constantly. This was something her prideful heart couldn't accept. Now, to catch up to Mu Chen's pace, the only option was to go to the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan and become a saintess. Once she became a saintess, she would hold extraordinary status within the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan. With the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan as her backing, if Mu Chen ever fell out with the Futu Ancient Clan, she could use the power of the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan to assist him, ensuring that the Futu Ancient Clan wouldn't go too far. Mu Chen stared at Luo Li. Looking at the expression on her face, he understood her thoughts. A feeling of deep emotion rose in his heart. The Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan was one of the 5 great ancient clans. Even though Luo Li had inherited the Supreme Spirit Heavenly Light, she would need to go through many hardships to solidify her position as the saintess. But she was willing to go without hesitation, and Mu Chen understood the depth of her feelings. Luo Li. But Luo Li raised her delicate hand and lightly covered Mu Chen's mouth, smiling softly. Don't try to persuade me. I've already made up my mind. Besides, at least I'll be safe in the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan. You don't need to worry. Mu Chen's expression was complicated as he gazed at the beautiful face before him. From the look in her eyes, he could see the firmness in her decision, and he knew that Luo Li had truly made up her mind. He sighed softly and nodded, then took out the celestial spirit jade marrow he had exchanged with his demon-slaying points earlier. Smiling, he said, "This is for you. It's very beneficial for cultivation." Luo Li curiously took the crystal-crafted earring. It was exquisitely made, with a pendant containing a translucent, emerald-green jade marrow that emitted an incredibly pure aura. The moment it touched her heart, a refreshing coolness spread throughout her body, even causing her spiritual energy to flow more swiftly. "Is this celestial spirit jade marrow?" Luo Li's sharp eyes immediately recognized the jade, and she couldn't help but express surprise, clearly aware of its rarity. Mu Chen nodded. "Try it on." Luo Li didn't refuse. She gently nodded and placed the crystal earring on her ear. Her earlobes, already delicate and fair, were made even more enchanting by the earring. As the pendant swayed lightly, it added an irresistible allure to her already stunning beauty, breathtaking in its charm. Luo Li gently twirled the earring with her fingers, then tilted her head slightly and flashed a radiant smile at Mu Chen. "Does it look good?" Her smile was nothing short of mesmerizing, with a playful yet graceful look in her eyes, enough to make anyone fall for her. Although they were tucked away in a corner of the Great Thousand Pavilion, many gazes were still drawn to her, and some even stared in awe. Before they could gaze too greedily, Mu Chen turned around, blocking Luo Li from view. "When I'm not around, don't smile so captivatingly." Luo Li chuckled softly, then playfully pouted. "Why? I'm worried others might not be able to resist," Mu Chen said with a mischievous grin. Luo Li rolled her eyes at him, but then noticed how close Mu Chen's body had become. The familiar scent filled the air, and without thinking, her hand instinctively reached to press against his chest. Her eyes, like shimmering glass, gazed at him with a touch of shyness. "What are you trying to do?" Mu Chen pouted and smiled. "We're about to part again. Aren't you going to give me some comfort? If not, I won't let you go." Luo Li gently bit her lip, a playful scowl on her face. Normally composed and graceful, Mu Chen was acting like a rogue at this moment. However, thinking about their imminent separation, Luo Li felt a pang of reluctance. After hesitating for a moment, her hand, which had been blocking Mu Chen, slowly withdrew. She shot him a sideways glance and then closed her eyes. As she stood there, her delicate, jade-like face just inches away, Mu Chen couldn't hold back his overwhelming emotions. He reached out and wrapped his arm around her slender waist, then lowered his head to gently kiss her soft, rosy lips. The sound of shattered teacups echoed through the dimly lit corner of the Great Thousand Pavilion. Despite the shadows, Luo Li's radiant beauty was impossible to ignore, and people kept turning their heads in awe. Many demon slayers couldn't help but sigh in disbelief. How could such a stunning beauty belong to someone else? That guy, Mu Chen, must have been struck by lightning in his past life to have such a lucky fate. Mu Chen didn't pay any attention to the whispers around him. He simply lowered his head, savoring the intoxicating softness of her lips. Eventually, it was Luo Li who couldn't take it anymore. She gently pushed him back, her usually serene face flushed a deep red. Her crystal-clear eyes were filled with a mix of shyness and affection. "Haha." Mu Chen, grinning foolishly, let out a soft laugh, his eyes lingering on her as if he wanted more, causing Luo Li to lift her fist and lightly punch him twice. Ahem. Just as the playful exchange continued, a dry cough interrupted them. Red Flame Old Immortal strolled over, casting a cold glance at Mu Chen. "Kid, show some restraint. How dare you flirt with the holy maiden of the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan in public?" Mu Chen grinned and wasn't fazed. "After this, please take good care of Luo Li in the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan, Senior Red Flame." "Stop talking nonsense." Red Flame Old Immortal rolled his eyes. "Don't worry. In the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan, Luo Li's cultivation speed will definitely surpass yours." Mu Chen wasn't surprised. Given Luo Li's extraordinary talent, coupled with her possession of the Luo Shun Divine Body and Supreme Spirit Heavenly Light, the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan would surely nurture her to her full potential. In time, she would surely reach the Heavenly Supreme level. Now that the sweet talk is over, let's go. Red Flame Old Immortal was direct, glancing at Luo Li with a smile. Luo Li looked at Mu Chen, then nodded lightly. With a flick of his sleeve, red flame old immortal's crimson gourd grew in size. Both he and Luo Li transformed into streams of light, with crimson radiance swirling around them before vanishing into the horizon. Mu Chen gazed at the direction in which they had departed, still lost in thought for a long while. Mu Chen, the matters here are settled, and it's time for us to return to the Wen family, Wen Qingxian said, walking up beside him, giving his shoulder a gentle pat, and smiling warmly. Mu brother, whenever you have time in the future, feel free to visit the Wen family. Wen Ziyu also cupped his fists and smiled. Mu Chen smiled and nodded in return. Wen Qingxian waved her jade-like hand, with no unnecessary hesitation, and then the river granny of the Wen family, with a swift flick of her sleeve, led the group off, transforming into streaks of spiritual light as they sped away. Watching them leave, Mu Chen turned and smiled at Ling Shi and Long Xiang, stretching lazily. Let's go. We should head to the Tianluo continent first. It had been over a year since he left the Tianluo continent. Back then, he was only a lower Earth Supreme, but now, upon his return, he had already reached the threshold of half-step great perfection. At that time, he lacked the ability to support Mu Manor and needed Mandala's help to suppress the forces. But now, below the Heavenly Supreme, he was nearly invincible. I wonder how Mu Manor is doing now. He chuckled lightly, his figure flickering as he transformed into a streak of light and shot skyward. Tianluo Continent, Northern Domain, Mu Manor Grand Hall. Within the Grand Hall, many powerful figures had gathered. Now, Mu Manor, as the largest force in the Northern Domain, was undoubtedly the overlord. Numerous factions in the Northern Domain had submitted, and a steady stream of powerful individuals had joined, further strengthening Mu Manor. However, although many of Mu Manor's strong members had gathered within the Grand Hall, the atmosphere was oddly heavy. At the head of the hall, seated on a golden throne, was Mandala, dressed in a black gown but appearing unusually petite. As the current caretaker of Mu Manor, Mandala's reputation in the Northern Domain had reached an all-time high. Since Mu Chen, the mansion master, had left the Northern Domain after the establishment of Mu Manor, he had not returned. As a result, all the order within Mu Manor had been maintained solely by Mandala. This had led to the situation where, in the Northern Domain, many factions had only heard of Mandala, yet knew nothing about the mysterious Mu Chen. At Mandala's side were Lu Tiandao, the ancestor of Myriad Sacred, and the lord of the Netherworld Palace, all prominent figures from the old powers of the Northern Domain. However, by now, they had all long since aligned themselves with Mu Manor. Below them were the other strong members of Mu Manor, their numbers and strength far surpassing even those of the great Luo Heaven Domain. On the main seat, Mandala gently tapped the armrest with her small hand, her expression cold. She scanned the entire hall with her eyes. After a brief silence, she slowly spoke. I've received information. A messenger from the Purple Cloud sect is about to arrive at Mu Manor. A hush fell over the hall. Many of Mu Manor's strong members changed their expressions when they heard the name Purple Cloud sect, their faces showing signs of apprehension. The Tianluo continent was a supercontinent within the Great Thousand Worlds, vast and expansive. It was divided into 5 main regions: East, South, West, North, and Central. The Northern Domain, where Mu Manor resided, was just a small corner of the Northern region. While Mu Manor had become the undisputed overlord of the Northern Domain, in the broader context of the entire Northern region, it was still just an average force. The Purple Cloud sect, mentioned by Mandala, was one of the 3 hegemonic powers in the Northern region. It was said that every elder in the Purple Cloud sect possessed the strength of a great perfection Earth Supreme, making their foundation incredibly deep and solid. In comparison, Mu Manor, supported solely by Mandala, was like a firefly next to the moon. The waters of the Tianluo continent ran deep. The forces they had previously encountered, like the Great Xia dynasty or the Sacred Demon Palace, although somewhat renowned, were still no match for these hidden ancient powers. Therefore, when the strong members of Mu Manor heard the name Purple Cloud sect, they couldn't help but feel intimidated by their imposing presence. What does the Purple Cloud sect want? After a long pause, Lu Tiandao, who was seated below, asked with a solemn expression. Mandala sneered and replied, "What else could they want? They likely want Mu Manor to become their vassal." The battle for dominance in the northern region is about to begin, and the Purple Cloud sect seems to want to recruit some cannon fodder to help them charge into battle and compete with the other two hegemonic powers. In the past, the northern domain was a scattered mess, which naturally wasn't of interest to anyone. But now that we, Mu Manor, have unified the northern domain and strengthened our power, we've attracted attention. Hearing this, the faces of the gathered experts darkened. They had just unified the northern domain and had yet to enjoy the full glory of their dominance, only to be targeted now. The battle for dominance in the northern domain is incredibly brutal. It's the battleground of the three ruling powers. Every time they clash, countless forces like ours are wiped out. If we intervene recklessly, I fear, the ancestor of Myriad Sacred said gravely. But if we refuse, we'll be disrespecting the Purple Cloud sect. They are too powerful, and we, Mu Manor, have no right to refuse them. Old Serpent Ghost sighed. Still, we can't become cannon fodder for the Purple Cloud sect. Within the Grand Hall, the strong cultivators began to argue. Clearly, the arrival of the messenger from the Purple Cloud sect had shaken the people in Mu Manor. Mandala, watching this scene, furrowed her brow. She had initially only wanted to unify the Northern Realm and strengthen Mu Manor, but never expected to bring the Purple Cloud sect into the picture. This was truly a big trouble. I wonder where the Lord of Mu Manor is now. Such an important matter, and he hasn't shown up, someone in the hall muttered, dissatisfied. I've been in Mu Manor for so long, yet I've never seen the mysterious Lord. Everything in Mu Manor is managed by Lord Mandala. Apparently, the Lord is extremely young, but he is only a lower Earth Supreme. Even if he returns, it won't change much. Mandala, sitting in the seat of honor, heard the growing shift in conversation and immediately coldly snapped, "Quiet." The hall fell silent. The cultivators immediately subdued, clearly cowed by Mandala's authority. Mandala's cold gaze swept over them, and the crowd quickly averted their eyes. After a moment, her expression shifted, and she turned her gaze toward the door, speaking in a low voice. "Friends from the Purple Cloud sect, since you've arrived, why not show yourselves? They say the Lord of Mu Manor is quite extraordinary. Now that I see for myself, the rumors were true." Just as Mandala's voice fell, a mocking laugh rang out from outside the hall. Upon hearing this voice, the faces of the Mu Manor cultivators changed drastically, their eyes burning with fury. How dare this person mock Lord Mandala? Mandala's eyes flashed with anger, but she suppressed it. Her gaze grew colder as she fixed her eyes on the door. There, spiritual light surged, and three figures stepped inside. The three were elderly men dressed in purple robes. The one at the front had pale skin like that of a baby, white hair, and a smile that made him look like a smiling tiger. Behind him were two other elders, their expressions proud and indifferent. As they appeared in the hall, a vast wave of spiritual energy swept through the room, sending nearby Mu Manor cultivators flying in all directions, their bodies crashing against the walls. Earth's supreme great perfection, Lu Tiandao and the others' faces changed dramatically. They hadn't expected that all three messengers from the Purple Cloud sect would be Earth's supreme great perfection experts. The strength of the Purple Cloud sect was truly unfathomable. Impudent. Mandala, seeing the three act with such recklessness, immediately felt a surge of coldness in her eyes. With a swift motion, she slapped her hand, and a ghostly light surged forward like a whip, tearing through the air and heading straight for the white-haired elder. The white-haired elder sneered and countered with a punch. Purple light flared around his fist, resembling a purple moon, and the two forces collided in midair. Boom! The violent clash of spiritual energy caused the entire hall to tremble. The white-haired elder staggered back a few steps, while Mandala, her petite form shaking, gripped the armrest of her seat. Cracks spread across the armrest. The two were evenly matched. As expected of the ancient Mandala, impressive strength. "I am Xun'er, and I have come to meet the Lord of Mu Manor," the white-haired elder said, his gaze flicking over Mandala before he smiled. Mandala's face remained expressionless as she replied, "I am not the Lord of Mu Manor. I'm merely overseeing things. And what business does the Purple Cloud sect have in this small northern realm?" The white-haired elder chuckled and said, "I believe you are aware that the struggle for dominance in the northern domain is approaching. Therefore, I've come on the order of our sect master to invite Mu Manor to join the Purple Cloud sect. Once we dominate the northern domain, Mu Manor will receive great rewards, including several territories in the northern realm." As he spoke, he took out a purple jade slip, glowing with spiritual light, emitting a subtle yet imposing aura. He flicked his finger, sending the jade slip flying toward Mandala. Mandala's expression remained unchanged. With a flick of her hand, an invisible force blocked the jade slip, and she said indifferently, "Our Mu Manor is weak. Even if we join the Purple Cloud sect, it won't make a difference. So, please take your invitation elsewhere." The white-haired elder chuckled. "Lord Mandala, there's no one who dares to refuse the invitation from the Purple Cloud sect. I hope you will reconsider." Although he wore a smile on his face, his words were laden with a heavy threat. Mandala's small face was icy, and her eyes seethed with anger. The white-haired elder remained nonchalant as he spoke. "And if we fail to complete our task today, I'm afraid our mood won't be pleasant. At that time, any damage to Mu Manor will not be my responsibility." Although there were only 3 of them, all were at the peak of the Earth's supreme realm. As long as he held Mandala back, the other 2 could freely act and eliminate all the Mu Manor experts. Upon hearing this, the Mu Manor experts in the hall turned pale, their eyes filled with both rage and fear. Clearly, they hadn't expected the Purple Cloud sect's people to be so domineering. Mandala, too, was so infuriated that her petite body trembled slightly. Her small hands clenched tightly, and her gaze was fixed on the white-haired elder. Her expression shifted, and in the end, the force she exerted to block them weakened. Because, in truth, she could not stop the 3 of them. That's the spirit. Joining our Purple Cloud sect will never be a loss for you. The white-haired elder chuckled, then casually waved his sleeve. The purple jade book floated toward Mandala. Inside the hall, many experts gazed at the slowly descending jade book, their expressions dimming. The Purple Cloud sect's actions had completely wiped out the face of Mu Manor. Mandala clenched her small hands, sighed, and closed her eyes, not wanting to watch the jade book fall. However, just as the hall was filled with an oppressive silence, and the purple jade book was about to land, a hand suddenly appeared out of nowhere and grabbed the falling jade book. "Who?" The white-haired elder's expression changed as he spoke in a low voice. The air in the hall rippled, and a tall, young figure gradually materialized amidst the astonished gazes. He held the purple jade book in his hand, his brow furrowing slightly. "Purple Cloud sect? You want Mu Manor to become your vassal? Do you even deserve that?" As he spoke, he tightened his grip slightly, and the jade book, symbolizing the Purple Cloud sect, exploded into a cloud of purple powder with a loud bang, all while the onlookers stared in shock. Lu Tiandao and others, as well as Mandala, opened their eyes at this moment, gazing at the familiar figure in surprise. Soon after, shouts of astonishment echoed throughout the hall. "Lord of the Manor, Mu Chen." This chapter marks the beginning of Lin Dong's battle with the 3 heavenly supremes and the revelation of his grudges with the Western Heaven War Emperor. The sudden scene in the hall shocked everyone. When Mandala, Lu Tiandao, and others cried out in surprise, the crowd was jolted back to reality. However, the first thing most of them focused on was the purple jade book in Mu Chen's hand, now crushed to pieces. The jade book represented the Purple Cloud sect, and over the years, no one had ever dared to refuse an invitation from the sect, let alone publicly destroy it. Anyone who broke the jade book would be seen as disrespecting the Purple Cloud sect, inviting catastrophic consequences. Is he really the Lord of Mu Manor? He's really too young, so impulsive. Crushing the jade book now will bring us tremendous trouble. Some Mu Manor experts lamented bitterly. Indeed, this was too reckless. Many experts' faces darkened. While it was satisfying in the moment, angering the Purple Cloud sect was a disaster Mu Manor could not afford. It seems disaster is imminent. Mu Manor is in grave danger. We should consider an escape route. The hall was filled with an uproar as many Mu Manor experts looked terrified. They were clearly stunned by Mu Chen's bold actions. After all, forget about the Purple Cloud sect. Even the three Earth Supreme experts in front of them were enough to make Mu Manor regret it deeply. Lu Tiandao, the Lord of the Netherworld Palace, and other early supporters of Mu Manor also had their expressions change at this moment. They sighed and shook their heads. The situation today was likely to end in a bad way. As the hall was in an uproar, the three elders of the Purple Cloud sect regained their composure. The white-haired elder, seeing the jade book shattered, immediately wiped the smile from his face. A cold gleam appeared in his eyes. That's quite something. In all these years, this is the first time I've seen someone dare to shatter my Purple Cloud sect's jade book. The white-haired elder's tone was chilling, his gaze sharp like a blade, locking onto Mu Chun. Well, from now on, you're going to regret it. Mu Chun said lightly, casually brushing the powder from his hand. You have 10 breaths to get out of Mu Manor. At the same time, his gaze swept over the panicked Mu Manor experts. Those who had previously shown signs of retreating for self-preservation were all marked in his mind. In such a critical moment, those who only cared about themselves were of no use in Mu Manor. Hearing Mu Chen's words, the three white-haired elders froze for a moment, then burst into loud laughter, their voices like thunder, shaking the entire grand hall. Lu Tiandao and the others exchanged glances, clearly unable to understand why Mu Chun did not take the three Great Perfection Earth Supremes in front of him seriously. Their eyes involuntarily turned toward Mandala, only to see her remain silent, her gaze thoughtfully following Mu Chen's retreating figure. I didn't expect the Lord of Mu Manor to be such an arrogant young fool, the white-haired elder said with a sigh, shaking his head. Since that's the case, Mu Manor has no reason to exist anymore. Boom. As soon as the last word left his mouth, his robes suddenly billowed, and a vast, ocean-like spiritual force erupted from his body, completely unrestrained. The entire hall shook violently as if it were about to collapse. Let's start with this brat. The white-haired elder smiled coldly, stepping forward. His figure moved like a ghost, appearing right in front of Mu Chun. With a single palm strike, the space beneath it cracked, revealing the immense power contained in the blow. Inside the hall, many Mu Manor experts gasped as they saw that the purple heaven steel was about to strike Mu Chun dead on the spot. No matter what, he was the lord of Mu Manor. If he died here, Mu Manor would surely cease to exist. Lu Tiandao and the others' expressions changed. After a moment of hesitation, they were about to make a move to protect Mu Chun, but were stopped by Mandala with a wave of her hand. Lord Mandala, they couldn't help but exclaim. A full-force strike from a Great Perfection Earth Supreme? Not to mention Mu Chun, even they would be doomed. Mandala's small face was cold as she stared at Mu Chen's back. From the moment he appeared, she had keenly sensed a faint, yet unmistakable, pressure emanating from him. That pressure told her that Mu Chun was no longer the same Mu Chun who had left earlier. Boom. In the stunned gazes of the many experts in the hall, the white-haired elder's palm descended. Just as it was about to land on Mu Chen's chest, Mu Chen's palm lightly lifted, as though swatting a fly, and his hand gently met the elder's strike. Bang! A dull sound rang out. Many of the Mu Manor experts instinctively closed their eyes, seemingly unwilling to witness the manor's tragic end. However, just as they were about to shut their eyes, they suddenly saw a figure crash backward, leaving long skid marks on the floor. The hall fell eerily silent. They could clearly see that it was the purple heaven steel from the Purple Cloud sect who had been sent flying. Swish! Incredulous gazes turned toward Mu Chun, who was still standing in place, hand outstretched as though he had merely brushed off the attack. The position of his feet hadn't even budged. The ferocious punch from the white-haired elder had failed to even shake Mu Chen's body, and instead, it was the elder who had flown backward. Poof! The purple heaven steel finally stabilized, but immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, his face filled with shock as he stared at Mu Chun. When their palms had first collided, he clearly felt an incredibly terrifying force from Mu Chen's hand. That kind of power had even made him, a Great Perfection Earth Supreme, feel a sense of fear. At this point, how could he not realize that Mu Chun had been pretending all along? Half-step Great Perfection. The purple heaven steel fixed his gaze on Mu Chun, gritting his teeth. When they first fought, Mu Chen's spiritual energy had clearly surged, revealing his half-step Great Perfection cultivation. But what he couldn't believe was how Mu Chen, with this half-step great perfection strength, could directly crush him. Whoosh. As this remark left his mouth, the many Mu Manor experts in the hall were also stunned. Lu Tiandao and the others looked on with disbelief. When Mu Chen left Mu Manor, he was merely a lower Earth Supreme. Yet, within just about a year, he had risen to a half-step great perfection. And the most terrifying part was that his half-step great perfection seemed to be enough to suppress and defeat a great perfection expert, like the Purple Heaven Steel. This kid is strange. Let's attack together. The Purple Heaven Steel barked harshly. At this moment, even he, no fool, understood that Mu Chen was no easy opponent. Alone, he would have no chance against him. Beside him, the other two great perfection experts of the Purple Cloud sect also nodded solemnly, their eyes narrowing with a murderous intent as they gazed at Mu Chen. Whoosh! But before they could make their move, Mu Chen suddenly stepped forward. As the space around him twisted, his figure bizarrely appeared in front of the three of them. Activate the Supreme Dharmakaya. The three's pupils shrank, and without hesitation, they shouted in unison. Vast spiritual light gathered behind them as they prepared to summon their Supreme Dharmakaya, for they sensed an overwhelming sense of danger emanating from Mu Chen. Just as massive figures began to materialize in the spiritual light behind them, a crystalline hand shot through the air, breaking the space with a thunderous force. It pierced through their spiritual defenses and lightly slapped their chests. Boom! A dull thud echoed through the hall. Everyone inside the grand hall flinched, then watched as the three figures of the Purple Heaven Steel were sent crashing once more, violently slamming into the stone pillars in the hall. Uffed! The three of them spat out blood. In that moment, they suddenly felt their spiritual power begin to fade. In a panic, they looked down and saw crystal-like handprints on their chests. Crystalline spiritual energy poured into their bodies, sealing their internal power, rendering them completely unable to control it. It was as if they had been sealed. In the span of a few breaths, the powerful spiritual energy that had surrounded them dissipated completely. With their spiritual power sealed, fear finally surfaced in their eyes. Mu Chen's methods were simply too terrifying. They never imagined that, before him, they wouldn't even have the chance to summon their Supreme Dharmakaya. Such methods were beyond the reach of a typical great perfection expert. Only those at the heavenly supreme level could achieve such feats. Could it be that the Lord of Mu Manor has reached this level? Run! Their faces turned pale. Without a second thought, they unleashed the last of their spiritual power and shot toward the grand hall's exit. The strength Mu Chen had displayed had truly instilled fear in their hearts. Mu Chen looked at their retreating figures with indifference, not bothering to stop them. Boom! However, just as they were about to break through the hall's entrance, a violent surge of spiritual energy howled from outside. Then, everyone saw the figures of the three men from the Purple Heaven Steel being sent flying back into the hall, crashing heavily once again. Did the young master tell you to leave? You three old dogs dare to run. A loud laugh echoed from outside the hall. Then, two figures walked in from the entrance. The first was a beautiful woman dressed in a white gown, with a cool, enchanting demeanor. Behind her, a burly man stood, his fists clenched, glaring menacingly at the three of them. The powerful spiritual fluctuations around him revealed that he, too, was a genuine great perfection expert. It was this burly man who had sent the three flying earlier. Mu Chen lowered his head, his expression calm as he gazed at the terrified Purple Heaven Steel trio, and said, "Did you really think you could come and go from Mu Manor as you pleased?" Inside the hall, it fell into complete silence. Everyone stared at the three great perfection experts, now trembling and no longer exuding their previous arrogance. A sense of satisfaction and pride swelled in their hearts. Their gazes turned to Mu Chen, no longer filled with the doubts they once had. Instead, they were filled with intense heat and reverence. Such courage, such methods. Is this truly the real master of Mu Manor?